always live up to our standards? Let's find out from Noah Miller with Cost of Living.
The high cost of living talks about the metaphoric cost, or the emotional cost that people in relationships have to pay. And in this case, two of the people in these relationships, there were two relationships, two hetero relationships, and in each of these two relationships, one of the people is disabled, physically disabled. And I thought it was a beautiful play because it really de-emphasized the disability. In one of the couples, the woman had no legs, and in the other couple, the man was severely physically disabled. I'm guessing it was cerebral palsy, I don't know what, but they didn't talk about it. They didn't say, oh, you have this or you have that. It was just about the fact that there were two sets of couples and how they related to one another. In the first set, it was a man, he was talking about how his wife died, and then it went into kind of a flashback, and we met her and we talked about what happened, and you could see how much he cared about her and how much he loved her. And in the other couple, it was the relationship between a caregiver and a severely disabled man, and the fact that she started to fall in love with him, and how that went. I don't want to give the whole plot away, but but the point is, it didn't really talk about, oh, these people are disabled and isn't that terrible. Instead, it just talked about the relationships and the messy, difficult, heart-wrenching things that can happen in a relationship. And that was what I thought was so beautiful about the play. And so it was definitely worth the cost of admission and worth the cost of seeing, because I thought it was moving and very, very heartfelt. Happy face.
Martina Majok's Pulitzer Prize winning Cost of Living isn't just about poor versus rich, but the cost of loving and loneliness as well. Eddie is mourning his wife who just died. We get to meet her in flashback scenes, like Noah said. They have a very prickly relationship. And in parallel scenes, we get to meet John, who is interviewing Jess to be his home aide to help shave and bathe him and make sure he's presentable as he earns his PhD. John's a bit of a snob and looks down on hardworking Jess because he has that entitled rich white man going, and it doesn't matter if you're stuck in a wheelchair, one can still be a prick. The acting was so superb. I was drawn into the characters, and I was invested in the emotional stake in their outcomes. And I mean, this was so much better than the off-Broadway version, which I thought had plot flaws. But this one, no. I found it moving and wonderful, and I'm giving this a happy, happy face.
Hi,
I'm Katy.
Eva Heinemann. Yes, you were in Cost of Living.
I was.
So hello, here we are with
Katy Sullivan.
Oh my gosh, that role. You had to be so mean. Was it hard to maintain? I mean, you seem like a fun, friendly person, but you had to be like mean the entire time. And is that a hard energy to maintain?
I don't think Ani is mean in any way whatsoever. She is a woman who's been hurt. And her ex shows up and tries to like re-infiltrate himself into her life. That's not necessarily mean to try to make some boundaries and stand your ground. So she's a woman scorned. So, beware of any of those.
I guess so. Yeah. So what's next for you?
I mean, there's always things going on, but I live in Los Angeles, so I'm pitching a television show right now, kind of loosely based on my life, and writing a book and working and auditioning, and just the hustle. I'm hustling. Yeah.
Well, good luck to your hustling, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
A Pulitzer Prize winning.
I know, and that too.
Yeah.
It's
not too shabby.
Not too shabby. We'll take it. Yeah.
Thank you. Here we are once again with
Katy Sullivan.
And now you're here at the Theater World Awards. I mean, my gosh, what did you think when you got the summons?
for someone to acknowledge anything that you've done in this way is extraordinary, and to know all of the incredible work that was done on Broadway and off Broadway last year, to be a part of this group is phenomenal. It's outstanding.
And it's like your first time.
I'm like a debutante.
But here you wear festive instead of what?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So what's next for you? Are you going to Disneyland?
Well, yes. As soon as I leave here, I'm going to Disneyland. No, I'm doing a reading at Red Bull Theater this month in a couple weeks, and I'm shooting a movie here in July, and just hustling, doing the work that we do. So taking a moment to enjoy the celebration and then getting back to work.
Well, congratulations once again, and good luck in the future.
Thank you so much.
Kinky Boots, with music and lyrics by Cyndi Lauper and a book by Harvey Fierstein, is back at Stage 42 in an updated version. Ladies, gentlemen, they, them, and those who are yet to make up their minds, and also feeling more intimate in its new home at Stage 42. It is a timeless story about pivoting, reinvention, and celebrates individuality and style. Mr. Price has been running a shoe story for generations and is hoping that his son Charlie will take it over someday. But Charlie has other plans that involve living with his shallow fiance Nicola in London. Everything changes when his dad dies and he's left with the factory that is floundering. A chance meeting with Lola and his angels changes everything and points him in a new direction. Make comfortable shoes for drag queens. Will his father's old employees go along with this? Will they get the shoes finished in time for the all-important Milan show? Who is a better fit for Charlie, his demanding fiance or Lauren, his supportive co-worker? You know where I go. Jerry Mitchell's high-energy choreography and direction, Miss Lauper's hard-driving music and lyrics, and Harvey Fierstein's high-quality book makes for a highly satisfying time at the theater. Christian Douglas handles a pivotal role of Charlie as he is torn between loyalty to his father, his fiance, the people of the factory, and his newfound friend Lola. What about what he wants for himself? Callum Francis as Lola is a revelation, as she also had a father who had expectations for him, but he knew what she was and wanted and was tired of making excuses. She was going to do what made her happy, and too bad if it made other people uncomfortable or unhappy. Daniela Hope had the best song in the history of Wrong Guys for everyone who ever had a string of bad relationships. She nailed that song and had us rooting for her. Everybody is trying to do their best, and even when they make wrong decisions that hurt people, I still care that it would all come out right in the end. I think I like this one even better than the Broadway version, as it was in a more intimate theater and I felt closer to the action. You will get a kick out of Kinky Boots' Happy Face. And Benjamin got to see the understudy for Lola, and he's not giving a review, but he's talking about the importance of understudies.
That's right. As we all know, Broadway would not exist in its current form as we know it, if not for understudies. From Broadway to off-Broadway, they're at the foundation of every production, making the mantra, the show must go on true. And as we all know, in all aspects of life, and especially in the theater, it takes a village. As we may or may not know, there are actually several types of supporting actors in every company: swings, standby performers, understudies, with varying degrees of responsibilities. A swing is an ensemblist member who's responsible for covering multiple tracks in a production. So can you imagine going into work every day and you're being told, today you're so-and-so, or today you're doing this set of responsibilities. So having to learn multiple parts at any time to jump in at a moment's notice. And then we have standby performers who are responsible for just covering one specific role. Not to diminish, of course, the work or accomplishments of a swing, but only responsible for one, so they can breathe a little bit easier. And then there's an understudy who performs regularly every night in the ensemble, but is responsible for covering a lead role when push comes to shove. So here at Stage 42 for Kinky Boots, the role of Lola is supported by swing Ernest Terrell Williams. Ernest brings a very captivating energy to the role and leads the company through its vibrant numbers like Raise You Up. In his 6th run of the show, Ernest performs with confidence and charisma that is unmatched.
Kahim Fahmy's Dodi and Diana was about repairing a marriage by following the rules of an astrologist who felt their relationship was parallel to Dodi and Diana. Jason, a financier, and Samira, an up-and-coming actress, are told by Vincent they have to stay 3 days in the same hotel in Paris as Dodi and Diana did. They can't leave the room, open the curtains, look at their phones or television, but just concentrate on each other and all will be revealed. They claim to be in love and supportive of each other, but are they? Can this marriage be saved? This is a very misleading play. Cat on a hot tin roof is brought up, but is just a smokescreen. To add fire to the fuel, we get a perfunctory scene with Dodi and Diana out of nowhere at the end of the play that does nothing to contribute to the plot, which isn't much to begin with. I was so disappointed as I really wanted to see this and moved heaven and earth to do so. I didn't know it was even going until 9 minutes beforehand. In the press release, the playwright Karim Fahmy said, "As a fellow Egyptian, I was always curious about Dodi, his life, and the relatively small space he occupies in Diana's constantly examined story. I hope this play sheds light on how a key moment in modern history has been remembered through a skewered lens, and that a quarter century later, we can visit it through a fresh perspective." That is the play I wanted to see. But instead, I get a dreary couple who shouldn't be together in the first place. The only good thing was Rosaline Elbay, who is an actress to keep your eye on. She has real stage presence and made this unbelievable plot bearable. She was like seeing Roxana Hope for the first time. That's how wonderful she was. So Dodi and Diana have crashed and burned all over again. And sadly, I have to give this an unhappy face. Hello, here I am with Lisa Ramaci to discuss Hyprov, Improv Under Hypnosis, which was created by Assad Mechi, Colin Mockery, and Jeff Andrews. And it's got starring the hypnotist extraordinaire. It's Sunday morning. And that's Assad Mechi, and the improv legend is Colin Mockery.
Okay.
Now you can take it away.
Okay. Eva said to me, "Do you want to go see this play that's hypnotism and improv?" And I thought, okay, sounds weird. So yes, I was in, and I was right. It was weird, but very enjoyable.
Weird but enjoyable.
Weird but enjoyable.
WBE.
The basic premise is that this guy, Assad Mechi, is a hypnotist, and he calls people out of the audience. And we were seated in the second row, and I got to tell you, everybody in the first 2 rows was there to get on as participants, because when he put out the call for
20
people to come up to the stage, yeah, he wanted 20 people, but like 100 showed up. There was a stampede.
And I got there.
And the first 20 people got seated. Everybody else was sent back to their original seats. And the premise is that he hypnotizes them, and then he picks 5 people, and then Colin Mockery comes out, takes improv suggestions from the audience, and utilizes these 5 people to fulfill what the audience tells them to do.
But so I was there because I mean, when I was a kid at the Concord Hotel, remember in the Concord Hotel in Monticello? Well, I got hypnotized when I was 8 years old, and people still remember it. So I thought, oh, I want to get hypnotized again. I got to tell you, it just didn't take. I know it didn't work. But the guy next to me, he was all excited because, and he got it. He was one of the people that he chose, which I thought was so cool. So they were not planned. I can tell you because I talked to the guy that they chose. And out of the 5 they chose, they had to get rid of one of the women because she really wasn't that much hypnotized. But the people that he chose were so good. And the suggestions from the audience were crazy and fun. And the people who were hypnotized were so clever and fun. So we got a really good show, but it's different every time. So you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I did not for a minute believe that these people were hypnotized.
But they were.
But they were very good at acting like they were hypnotized.
I think they were.
I do not agree. I basically, and I'm not saying they were plants. I don't think they were plants. I think that they were basically talented people who knew what was expected of them, and they performed. And as Eva said, and as I mentioned in my review, it could be hit or miss. We got very lucky. There was one guy, he was a young Russian guy who reminded me very much of a young Mikhail Baryshnikov. He danced, he sang, he mugged. Do you remember when we saw Baryshnikov do the Edward Gorey ballets?
Gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, murder.
Yeah, exactly. He was actually moving on stage like Baryshnikov moved in those ballets. He was tremendous. He was the star of the five, and we didn't know any of their names. I mean, they were introduced, but they were evanescent. These names, they just sort of were gone with the wind. It was all guys. All the women got sent back to their seats, but they were good. Some were better than others. The suggestions were fun. Colin Mockery was great. The weak part for me was like the first 20 minutes where Asad Mechi described his methods for hypnotism, where he called people up onto the stage, where he had them do all these things at his command to see if they were hypnotizable. And when he sent them back, I mean, that was sort of like, okay, paint drawing on the walls
But
is
as
more
for
interesting to
participating,
watch.
it was exciting. So if you can possibly get in the first 2 rows and wear really good running shoes, then you'll have a good time for the first 20 minutes. Because
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it was exciting. Oh, no, I guess we're over extending our time.
So once Colin Mockery came on the stage, 2 thumbs up from me.
Yeah, well, I found the whole thing 2 thumbs up and happy face.
Yes, happy face.
Happy face, because I just found it exciting. And at one point there was a romance in the laundromat, and they went to park, and they had all these crazy things we were doing, and it was so much fun. And I really enjoyed it. So happy face.
And yes, happy face.
The elevator repair service has now turned their sights on Baldwin and Buckley at Cambridge, which was conceived by ERS members April Mathis and Greg Sargent. It's the debate that takes place on February 18th, 1965, between James Baldwin and William F. Buckley as to whether the American dream is at the expense of the American Negro. The debate is first set up between Mr. Haycock taking Mr. Baldwin's position and Mr. Buford taking Mr. Buckley's in an interesting twist. But then we get 2 of the most articulate and erudite men, Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Buckley, making very valid arguments in both of their positions. You think it's a slam dunk. Yeah, of course, the American dream is at the expense of the American Negro. I mean, my God, they were slaves to fostering the white man's, plantation and dream. But, Buckley actually makes you think. He actually, gives Baldwin a run for his money. And I'm not going to go into all the details because there's so much. And this is so philosophical and so meaty and so wonderful that you just got to go see it for yourself, because this was just brilliantly acted, brilliantly performed. And there was a nice little coda at the end with Baldwin and Lorraine Hansberry, which kind of gave it even more depth. So I am giving this a major happy face, and just really, you have to see this. I can't talk about it because it's so brilliant. We saw MJ about Michael Jackson with a book by Lynn Nottage, and it was directed and choreographed by Christopher Wheeldon. And basically, it's about the life of Michael Jackson, using his music to talk about him. And really, it's used in the form of it. These people are doing an interview of him, and it doesn't go into all this lurid details, because this is not about the lurid Michael. This is about Michael, the artist, Michael, the musician, played stunningly by Miles Frost, who got a Theatre World Award for it. And I gotta say, his understudy, Jeremy Payton, who I saw later on in the run, he also was excellent. And Quentin Earl Darlington plays not only his father, Joseph Jackson, but also Rob, the kind of director of Michael Jackson's, tour and everything. And young Michael, we saw it with Christian Wilson, and teenage Michael was Tavon Old Sample. And this, I mean, I'm not a Michael Jackson fan like Alfie. I mean, he went as hot 1 year for Halloween. You went as Michael Jackson. You love Michael Jackson. So you'll concentrate on the music part of it, but I was impressed.
Yeah, this was amazing. I thought that Miles Frost as MJ was just incredible. It really did feel like MJ was on stage. And like my mom said, the fact that it didn't go into lurid details, I appreciated the fact that this was just a celebration of Michael's music more than anything else. And I think they nailed a lot of his songs, especially the big hits like Bad, Thriller, Wanna Be Starting Something. The Thriller number was so good. It really, I think that sold the whole show. I also want to mention that the young Michael Christian Wilson was great. Tavon Old Sample as teenage Michael was really amazing. They really focused on casting 3 good Michael Jacksons, and that's really what you needed, right? Everything else, I don't know, the story, the plot, it was a jukebox musical. That doesn't really matter to me. But the fact that they did those songs so well, and it really felt like Michael Jackson on stage, was really incredible to me. I love this. Major happy face.
Oh yeah, major happy face. And the audience, also we should say the audience thought they were at a Michael Jackson concert. So again, the audience, we were in a good audience.
Audiences have been a lot more enthusiastic lately. They're getting more into shows. I like that. It's not so stuffy and, oh, we have to clap only when the music ends. People are getting into it. I like that.
They're yelling at the audience, yelling at Michael like he's really Michael.
It was nice.
Yeah, it was just a wonderful experience. We have a very special guest with us today, David Fuller, to talk about his opening in real person. Theater 2020 is going back to the old reliable standby of Sondheim with You're Going to Love Tomorrow. And boy, no one does Sondheim like Theater 2020. So David Fuller, tell us all about it, and we'll hear more from you on our next show, November 5th. But we want to hear about the show now.
Well, thanks so much for having me on Theater 2020, which is the only professional equity theater based in Brooklyn Heights, is presenting You're Gonna Love Tomorrow, which is a Stephen Sondheim review. It features 6 actors, and we do 22 songs. The show lasts about 80 minutes. It's at a place called The Great Room at 138 South Oxford Street in downtown Brooklyn, just a couple of blocks from the Barclays Center. And we're really delighted to bring this show to Brooklyn as our first effort of the 2022-23 season after a long layoff because of COVID. We had to stop our production of Sondheim on Sondheim back in March of 2020 because of COVID, and we've been producing outside and online since then. So this is our first season back of live theater indoors. And so we're very happy to be doing that, and we're very happy to be bringing You're Gonna Love Tomorrow, which is a rarely produced Stephen Sondheim review. It's something that was contemplated with other things that we were thinking about doing. So we decided to do a season of what we're calling the Bards of Broadway and Avon. We're doing 2 shows of Sondheim and 1 show of Shakespeare. We're doing You're Gonna Love Tomorrow now, and then in the wintertime, we're going to be doing a production of Sunday in the Park with George. That will be presented at the Mark O'Donnell Theater, which is on Schermerhorn Street in downtown Brooklyn. Then in the spring, we're going to be doing a version of The Tempest, which will be done indoors at the Great Room at South Oxford and also outdoors at venues to be decided. We're in discussion with some parks where we're going to be doing The Tempest. So that's what we're doing now and in the future. A little bit about You're Gonna Love Tomorrow. It was back in 1983, Paul Lazarus, who's a friend of mine from Dartmouth College, put together this review. It was called A Stephen Sondheim Evening, and it was an installment of the Whitney Museum's Composers Showcase series. He worked with Stephen Sondheim and Sondheim's long collaborator, Paul Gimignani, who did a lot of musical direction for Sondheim, and they put together this show to show some of Sondheim's work. And I could just read a little bit of what Paul Lazarus wrote for the RCA recording jacket. He says, to borrow from one of his own lyrics, Stephen Sondheim rarely does anything twice. From his first professional effort, the unproduced Saturday Night in 1954, through his then most recent show, which was Sunday in the Park with George, the composer-lyricist created a canon of theater songs that defies generality. They are by turns tuneful, harmonically complex, Japanese in feeling, Viennese in style, heavily harmonically complex, heavily rhymed, simply structured, emotional, ambivalent, whimsical, painful, body sophisticated, sardonic, upbeat, and much more. And we were very delighted to get the rights to this show. Judith and I, my partner Judith Jaros and I had been fortunate to work with Stephen Sondheim, and he was a good supporter of our theater company. So we are very happy to be doing this show, and we are actually dedicating this season to Stephen Sondheim, who, as you probably all know, passed away just last year, almost a year ago now. So that's the brief, I think, about You're Gonna Love Tomorrow. Oh, I have to say that it's starting tonight. We're opening on October 13th. We are running through November the 6th. It's roughly Thursday through Sunday, although there is one Wednesday performance. All shows are at 8 p.m. And if you want to get more information about it, you can go to our website, which is www.theater2020.com. And you got to spell theater, THEATER 2020.com. And there'll be a link to the tickets and also more information about the show there on our website.
As virtually everyone in the theater community knows, we lost Angela Lansbury on October 11th. In response, all the theaters in New York City dimmed their lights on October 15th, something very rare. We plan to talk more about Mrs. Lansbury's extraordinary career on the next show. We also lost Rita Gardner, another theater icon who was the original girl in the Fantastics. They were both kind and lovely to everyone they met. At some point, High Drama will share interviews with both actresses that were garnered over the years.
So our next show is November 5th, but a lot of plays have fallen through the cracks. Some are closing before this show, October 16th, but I got to tell you, they're going to be on either YouTube. We're going to do a special presentation on YouTube of all the shows we couldn't get on this show, and it'll be on Facebook. But here's a whole long list. I'm Revolting at Atlantic Theater Company, Complicity at New Ohio, New York Theater Workshop, American Television. Inked Well is from New Light Theater Project, one of my favorite theater companies. And by the way, I love Colt, who did Dodi and Diana, and every one of my favorite people is allowed one clunker because I love them and I will continue to support them. Black Orchid, Susan B. at Theater for the New City, Split Britches at La Mama is doing Last Gasp, a recalibration. Cooking is happening at New Victory. Chekhov's First Play is going on at Irish Arts, and Master Voices is back with Carmen, and it's October 25th. You'll find the information on Facebook. And there's so much more. I haven't even tip of the iceberg. So much. Either on YouTube, we have special presentation of shows there, along with our usual show, and Facebook. So lots going on. Find it and go.